horses, it's a great place to start. And by the Miller Brewing Company, proud founder of the Thurgood Marshall Black Education Fund.
Blazers. Then they get a little bit of a breather because on the 28th, the Detroit Pistons will be coming to town. That should be quite a game. And then the homestand will wrap up with a ball game against the San Antonio Spurs on the 2nd of March before the Cavs have a rematch with Detroit in Detroit. At center floor, it will be Larry Nance and Akeem Olajuwon for the opening tap. The Cavs of the first half will go left to right on your radio dial. The Cavaliers 38-12. The Rockets at 31-18. The opening tap belongs to the Cavs. Doherty picks it up out of the center circle. Off of the left side to Price. Give to Harper. Harper sideline left. Inside to Doherty against Olajuwon. Doherty backs in. Double team. Ball slapped up and in. It's off Woodson's hand into the basket and give Doherty the basket. He was going to pass. The ball was deflected by Woodson into the basket of the Cavs lead 2-0. On the right wing, Floyd. Cross-court Woodson left wing puts it up and gets the basket back. Ball game tied at 2. And into the forecourt come the Cavs. On the left side, Price out to Doherty. Doherty off on the right side. Sanders couldn't hang on to the ball and dropped it out of bounds. 40 seconds gone. Game tied at 2. Buck Johnson deals it into Floyd. Floyd into the forecourt of the right wing. Floyd against Price outside the three-point arc. Floyd comes around a Thorpe pick. Flips it out on the right sideline to Woodson. Woodson into Thorpe. Thorpe double team back out to Floyd. Now to Buck Johnson. Ball into Olajuwon. Turns with a right hand slam. Olajuwon with his first basket. 4-2 Houston. 10:55 to play in the quarter. On the left sideline, Mark Price. Price against Floyd out front to Doherty. The alley-oop for Harper off the rim. Controlled by Houston. Olajuwon gets it to Floyd. Floyd fires it down the floor to Thorpe of the lane. Turns to his right, hooks it up. No. Olajuwon went for the slam and missed. Doherty with a rebound out to Sanders. Sanders into the forecourt of the right sideline. Sanders stops, gives the ball to Doherty. Doherty back out to Price to set it up. Price on the right wing. Around the Doherty pick to the top of the key. Drives the lane. Scoops it up and in. Price with his first 2. Ball game tied at 4. And into the forecourt comes Floyd. Floyd at the top of the three-point arc. 10-12 to go first quarter. Off to Woodson on the right wing. 15-footer hits the rim. No good. Rebound Larry Nance. Ball on the floor. Picked up by Sanders. Flips it over to Price. Price into the forecourt of the right side. Intercepted by Woodson. He gets the ball to Floyd. Back to Woodson. Woodson bounce over to Olajuwon. Lays it up and in. Olajuwon with 4. And Houston leads 6-4 with 9:52 to play in the first quarter. Harper now brings the ball ahead for the Cavs into the forecourt with 9:45 to go in the period. Top side to Doherty. Doherty between the circles. Doherty off of the left side to Larry Nance from 15. Shot of the rim, no good. Rebound Sanders knocks it outside to Floyd. Floyd cross-court to Woodson. Woodson to the line out of the right side over to Thorpe. Thorpe right of the lane for the shot. Glass rim, no good. Rebound out on the left side. Run down by Woodson. Woodson gives to Floyd. Left wing 3 is good. No sleepy Floyd nails the three-pointer, and the Cavaliers down 9-4. 9:15 to play of the period. Into the forecourt. Harper. Harper feeds along the left side to Nance. Swings into the lane. Got a bump from Olajuwon. Put the shot on the iron. It did not drop. But Akeem Olajuwon will be guilty of the foul. Olajuwon with the first foul of the ball game, and it puts Larry Nance on the line. Nance is a free throw shooter, 81%. Cavs is a team, 74%. Cavs down by 5 at 9-4. First free throw to the rim and in. Nance with his first point, and the Cavs trail by 4. 9:07 to play in the first period. Again, line to the right. Larry Nance measures the toss and hits it. 2 points for Nance, and the Cavs are down 9-6. 9:05 to play of the period. Floyd lob ahead to Thorpe. Thorpe into the forecourt of the right side to Woodson. Woodson cut off by Harper. Backs in on him. He spins. He passes inside, and Doherty knocks the ball out of bounds and away from Olajuwon. 8:55 to play in the first period. Houston with a 9-6 lead. Baseline right of the basket. Buck Johnson inside to Woodson. Woodson on the right side against Harper. Woodson unloads. No good. Ricochets outside. Harper gets a handle on it. Harper dribbles out in the backcourt. Timeline down the floor to Nance. He turns. Finger rolls it on the rim. In and foul. Nance with 4 will for 5 at the line. And the foul is on Buck Johnson. Johnson with his first, Houston with the second. 8:42 to play, 9-8, Rockets lead. 8:42 to play in the first period. Nance 2 for 2 at the line, now 3 for 3, and the Cavaliers come right back and tie the ball game at 9. In the backcourt, Olajuwon turns around, hands to Floyd. Floyd's pass into the forecourt to Thorpe. Thorpe on the right side holds the ball over his head. Back out of the left wing to Woodson. Woodson against Nance. Back outside to Floyd, inside to Thorpe. Goes to the basket, and Nance blocked his slam. Out to Harper. Harper into the forecourt. Drops it off to Nance. Left of the lane into Doherty. Put up a shot. Blocked by Olajuwon and out of bounds. We have 2 of the serious shot blockers of the NBA in this game today. Nance for the Cavs, Olajuwon for the Rockets. Sanders lobs outside between the circles to Doherty. Doherty off to Price. Price left of the circle, covered by Woodson. Backs out, comes around Doherty, top of the key, fires, hit. Price with 4. The Cavs are up by 2, and the Rockets want to take a 20. Floyd goes to the right wing and asks for and gets a timeout. 20-second timeout for the Houston Rockets. The Cavaliers are up 11-9 here in the first period of play. The Cavaliers looking for their 39th win of the year. Wednesday night, New Jersey will be here. There are still some very good seats left for that New Jersey ball game. Portland will come to town with their brand new head coach, Rick Adelman, on Friday night. And Detroit next week on Tuesday. San Antonio comes in the second, and the Cavs go to Detroit in the third, and then head for the West Coast. In fact, of all the remaining home games, there are tickets left for all of them. However, just a few games where the best seats are available. The 22nd against New Jersey, the 2nd of March against San Antonio, the 20th of March against Washington, March 23rd, Milwaukee, March 28th, Dallas, April the 11th, Philadelphia. Right on the far side, the Cavs up by 2. The ball into Floyd after the timeout. Gives to Woodson. Woodson into Olajuwon. Olajuwon back out on the sideline to Woodson. To Thorpe on the left side. Buck Johnson. Johnson muscles the shot up. No good. Rebound comes out to Sanders. Down the floor to Price. Fumbles the ball. Picks it back up. Goes to the wing. Feed to Harper. Left side jumper. In and out. Rebound Nance. Tries again. And in. Nance gave it a roundhouse whirl up at the rim. Left side. Floyd, no. Rebound. Sanders out to Harper. Cavs 5-4. Harper driving on Woodson. Spins again, and he is fouled driving to the basket. Cavs 5-4. The foul is on Sleepy Floyd. That is his first. That is Houston's third. Harper will go to the free throw line. Ron is yet to score in the ball game. As a free throw shooter, he is 78%. 13-9 Cleveland, 7:21 to play of the period. Harper's first toss goes up and in. Ron gives the Cavs a 5-point advantage, so there's been a 10-point swing here. The Rockets up by 5, now down by 5. Harper ready again. Up. Good. Harper with his first 2, and the Cavs take a 15-9 lead with 7:19 to play of the period. Floyd ahead to Thorpe into the forecourt of the right wing. Thorpe outside the three-point line, goes to the right sideline to Woodson. Woodson lobs the ball into Olajuwon. Back outside to Woodson. Top side, Buck Johnson. Left side, Thorpe with the baseline. Shot didn't go. Rebound, Sanders. Give to Price. Down the floor for Nance. Off his hands with a fast break and out of bounds. 15-9 Cleveland. 7 minutes exactly to play in the first quarter. Thorpe gets it in to Floyd. Floyd bringing it up to the timeline. Into the forecourt. Floyd works to the left wing and stops. Into Olajuwon. Draws the double team. Turns on Doherty. Forces a shot. Good and foul. Olajuwon with 6 will look for 7 at the line. And the foul is on Brad Doherty. Timeout for the Cavs. 6:50 to play in the first quarter. The Cavs 15-11 on the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network. Cavaliers are 5 of 9 for the field and 5 of 5 from the line. Houston 5 of 14 for the field. Cavaliers have an 8-4 rebounding advantage, and that will be most important in the first game. So Houston out-rebound the Cavaliers 47-41. There will be a free throw coming for Hakeem Olajuwon. He had a basket And now we'll try to get the Rockets back to within 2. It is 15 to back to within 3. It's 15 to 11 in favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers. 6:50 to go in the first quarter, and there are no changes for either ball club as they come away from their respective coaches. Olajuwon, a 71% shooter. They need a Houston Rocket to go into the rebounding alley on the left side between Doherty and Price, and Sleepy Floyd will assume that duty. Olajuwon ready. He loads the free throw. It is good. Now Olajuwon has 7, and the Cavaliers lead 15 to 12. Into the forecourt, Price with a bounce to Sanders. Back over to Price. Back over to Sanders. Sanders to the top of the three-point arc. Fires under to Harper. He put it in. Oh, it came out. He was fouled, however. And the foul was on Buck Johnson. Buck Johnson with his second foul. Harper will go to the line. Harper 2 for 2 at the line as his second brace of free throws coming with 6:37 to play of the first period. On the line to the right. Dips and flips the first. Good. Cavaliers 16 to 12. Harper ready again. Sights it. Shoots it. Got it. 4 points for Harper. Cavaliers by 5, 17 to 12. In the backcourt, Woodson crosses into the forecourt. Woodson between the circles, top of the three-point arc, right wing to Sleepy Floyd. Floyd on the right side, deals the ball inside. Olajuwon turns in the lane. His shot is an air ball. Grabbed by Thorpe. He fires it back out to Buck Johnson. He goes inside, puts it in with the right hand. Good move by Johnson. And it is 17-14 Cleveland. Up to the timeline, Price into the forecourt. 6:09 to play of the first quarter. Price outside the three-point arc. Ball knocked away by Floyd. Price gets it back, whips the ball into Doherty, and he is fouled as he tried to go to the basket. Mike Woodson is the guilty party. Woodson with his first, and that puts the Rockets over the limit. Have a change now. Purvis Short comes in for Buck Johnson. Johnson, 2 points, 2 fouls to the bench. Purvis Short averaging 9.5 points a ball game, had 2 in the first meeting. 17-14. Doherty on the free throw line rams the first free throw up to the top of the backboard and then back off the front of the rim. Brad, a 73% free throw shooter. 17-14. Doherty ready again. Second toss is there. 3 points for Doherty, and the Cavaliers lead by 4. Thorpe inbounds to Floyd. Floyd to the backcourt, has Price to contend with. Into the forecourt through the center circle. Right side, Woodson thinks 3. Harper covers. Lob inside, taken away by Nance. Fires it down the floor to Harper. Harper drives. 6 points for Harper. 20-14 Cavs. 5:39 to play in the first quarter. To the left wing, Floyd against Price. Into Olajuwon. Draws the double team immediately. Spins left. His shot is no good, and the rebound, Sanders. Out to Price. Price over the timeline into the forecourt. Price whips it left side, Harper. Harper goes into the middle, back out to Sanders. Off on the left side to Nance. Nance with a 3-second violation on Doherty. Loses a basket. The Rockets, I think, want to talk it over. Timeout. Houston, 5:16 to play in the first quarter. The Cavs by 6 on the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network. In Atlanta, Dallas at San Antonio, Phoenix at Utah, and the Lakers at Sacramento. Lachevius, Floyd, Thorpe, Short, and Olajuwon for the Cavaliers. Price, Harper, Sanders, Nance, and Doherty for the Cavs. It'll be Houston's ball. Inbounding down at the Cavalier bench in the backcourt. Purvis Short will do the inbounding. He gets it to Derek Chevius, who comes quickly to the forecourt against Harper. Bounce to the left side to Olajuwon. Olajuwon back out of the left wing to Short. Short feeds it inside, and an offensive foul. Olajuwon pushing on Doherty, and that's the second foul on Hakeem Olajuwon. And that gives the ball back to the Cavaliers, and it's going to bring Tim McCormick into the game. Olajuwon has fouled out of 7 games thus far this year. On the right wing, Price. Price spins around Floyd, down the lane, feeds to Nance, fumbled the ball, and tied up. Olajuwon tied him up. Waiting for McCormick to come in, but he can't because Olajuwon will be jumping with Nance in the Cleveland circle. 20-14 the Cavs, 4:53 to play in the first period. Bob Delaney steps in to put the ball up and then steps back to make sure everybody's squared away. It goes up. The ball slapped outside to Price. Price on the right wing around to Sanders' pick. Price the bounce into Doherty. Doherty right of the lane. Doubled by Thorpe. Cross-court Harper. Top side to Nance. Nance back to Price on the wing. Three in the air. Good. 7 for Price. 23-14 Cleveland. 4:32 to play of the period. Floyd into the forecourt. Works his way to the left side. Pass to Olajuwon. Back outside to Purvis Short. Right wing Chevius. Chevius puts it up from 18 feet off the back of the rim. No good. Rebound Sanders. Out to Price. Price over the timeline into the forecourt of the right wing. Price comes down the right sideline. Around to Doherty. Pick to the top of the key. Left wing. Harper from 22. Shot on the rim. No. Ball poked up in the air. Baseline save by Purvis Short into Olajuwon. Lobs down the floor to Floyd. Floyd into the forecourt. Gives it to Short for the jumper on the wing. It is good. Purvis Short has his first two. And it is 23-16 in favor of the Cavaliers. 3:51 to play in the period. On the right wing, Harper feeds into Doherty. Doherty in the lane, right-hand jump hook, hangs to the rim. Harper went up, tried to slam it home, and ricochets away to Short. Short over the timeline into the forecourt. Short, top side to Olajuwon. Olajuwon at the free throw line, back outside to Purvis Short. They want to get Olajuwon out of there before he gets his third foul. Olajuwon double team, spins, 15-footer from the line. No good. Rebound, Sanders again. Fires it down floor for Doherty. Got a hand out of it. Floyd got it away. Floyd turns it back the other way for the Rockets. Long lob on the left side to Purvis Short. Bounce into Olajuwon. Back out to Floyd. Now to Short. Fires from the corner and hits. He was on the line as he unloaded. Purvis Short with 4. At the other end, Nance drives and scores. Larry Nance with 9. Cavaliers 25-18. Into the forecourt. Floyd on the left wing. Floyd dribbling with the right hand. Out front to Short. Around on the right to Chevius. Into Thorpe. Thorpe right of the lane against Nance. Back out for the 3 by Purvis Short. No good. Rebound in the lane. Grabbed by Olajuwon. And he walked with the ball. Tim McCormick will now come on to replace Olajuwon. The fifth-year man out of Michigan had been playing in Philadelphia, New Jersey. He is averaging 6 a game. Frank Johnson is going to check in. He'll have to wait a little longer. Cavaliers have Hot Rod Williams into the ball game, averaging 11 a contest with 6 boards. Top side to Doherty against McCormick. Doherty on the three-point arc. Doherty looking, feeds to Price. Price 20 feet away on the left. Shot didn't go. Big bounce off the rim to Thorpe. Otis Thorpe in the backcourt. 2:22 to play of the period. Thorpe fires it ahead to Short into the forecourt to Floyd. Floyd drives into the lane. Spins, puts it in, and he's fouled. Sleepy Floyd with 5 will look for 6 at the line. 25-20 with 2:16 to play. Foul was on Larry Nance. That's Nance's first and the Cavs' second as a team. The free throw line, Sleepy Floyd. Floyd, 5 points, first free throw, 85% free throw shooter. Waiting now for Derek Chevius to go down and get into the rebounding alley. 2:16 to play of the period. Free throw goes up and in. Floyd with 6 points, and the Cavaliers lead by 4. Williams to Doherty, drops it over to Price. Elo is into the ball game for the Cavaliers, averaging 7 a contest. Of course, played 3 years with the Rockets. Has it on the left wing. Feeds it to Hot Rod, back out to Elo. Elo on the left wing. Double team, bounce to Nance. Nance to Doherty. Underneath to Williams in the lane. Hot Rod's shot is up and in. Hot Rod with his first 2. 27-21 Cleveland. 1:52 to play in the period. And with this, the horn sounds, and they're going to put Frank Johnson into the ball game. Frank Johnson comes in. This is his 8th year of the league. Played the last 7 with Washington. He was on paper with New Jersey, but traded right on down to Houston. 6'3", averaging 4.5 points a game, and he'll run the show at point guard. 27-21. Left wing, Frank Johnson against Price. Ball goes inside to Thorpe. Thorpe against Hot Rod into the lane, up for the right-hander. Beauty. Otis Thorpe gets his first basket of the ball game. 27-23 Cavs. Into the forecourt, Price. Price on the right wing with 1:28 to play in the first quarter. Price stops into Doherty. Doherty double team back out to Wheelo from the top of the key. Goes to Hot Rod, left wing 12-footer, in and out. Rebound, McCormick. McCormick to Frank Johnson. Johnson quickly into the forecourt. Frank Johnson right sideline to Chevius. Chevius lobs it inside, and the ball knocked away by Doherty from Thorpe and out of bounds. 15 on the shot clock, 1:09 to play in the quarter. The Cavaliers with a 27-23 advantage. On the baseline to the right of the basket, Purvis short deals it in to McCormick. McCormick takes a bounce topside to Thorpe. Thorpe with pressure from Hot Rod Williams, works it down the lane, deals it off on the left side to Frank Johnson. Johnson left of the lane, the 10-footer no good. Rebound swatted back to McCormick, and he put it in. Well, McCormick gets his first two, and the Cavs lead down to 2, 27-25. Less than a minute to play in the first quarter. Elo into the forecourt against Chevius. Dribbles to the left side of the lane. Feeds it on the left sideline to Price. Into Doherty. Doherty against McCormick. Out to Elo. Elo goes into the lane. Up with a little 6-footer off the back of the rim. Tipped in by Hot Rod. Hot Rod with 4. 29-25 Cavs. 34 seconds to play in the period. Into the forecourt, Frank Johnson. Johnson dribbling with the left hand against Price. Off of the left sideline to Short. Short against Hot Rod Williams. Short flips the ball into Thorpe. Back out to Short. Over on the right wing. Bounced inside. Chevius trying to get into the McCormick. Bounces by him and out of bounds, and the Cavs have the ball back. 19 seconds to play in the first quarter, so the Cavs can use them all. Ball comes into Mark Price. Price and Frank Johnson one-on-one up to the timeline. Elo sets a pick. Price comes by it into the forecourt of the left wing. Price with 10 seconds outside the three-point line. Price still out there with 6 seconds. Around Doherty, to the line, to the lane. Off to Wheelo on the sideline for the three. It didn't go. Rebound, Hot Rod put it back up, but too late. And at the end of the first period, Cleveland 29, Houston 25 of the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network. Cleveland with a 29-25 first quarter advantage. Cavs paced by Larry Nance with 9, Mark Price with 7, Ron Harper with 6, Hot Rod Williams with 4, and Brad Doherty with 3. Elo and Sanders did not score, although Sanders did a good job on the board. Houston, 7 for Elijah 6 for Sleepy Floyd, 4 for Purvis Short, 2 each for Woodson, Thorpe, and McCormick. Chevius, Frank Johnson, they did not score. Cavs shot 48% of the first quarter, 8 of 9 from the line. Houston 11 of 26 from the field for 42%, 2 of 2 from the line, and the Cavs with a 14-11 rebounding edge. Cavs in the second period will start it off with Price and Elo at the guards. Brad Doherty remains at center. Larry Nance at one forward, Hot Rod Williams at the other. And Houston starts with the ball. Frank Johnson brings it into the forecourt, off of the right side to Chevius. Chevius back to Johnson, pass inside to Thorpe. He turns for the left hand slam, didn't get it, but Hot Rod Williams got him. So Hot Rod with his first foul. And it will put Otis Thorpe on the free throw line. Thorpe has only a basket for 2. And that will certainly be one of the keys for the Cavs if they can win this game today, and that is keeping Otis Thorpe from really taking off. He's averaging almost 16 a game. Pumps the first free throw off the front of the rim, no good. Thorpe is a 75% free throw shooter prior to that miss. Second toss is in there. Thorpe with his 3rd point of the game, and the Cavaliers have a 3-point lead. Price on the right wing. Gives right side to Nance from 18. Good! Larry Nance with 11, and the Cavaliers lead by 5. Into the forecourt, Frank Johnson. Johnson holding the ball, lob into Thorpe again. He draws a crowd. He spins. He hooks. He missed. Rebound. Hot Rod to Elo, and Elo had the ball get away from him and out of bounds. The referees who paid their way in here today felt that his progress was impeded somewhat, and indeed it was, but Short inside to McCormick, hands behind him to Frank Johnson. Johnson between the circle. Johnson gives the ball to Purvis Short. Short against Nance. Threw it away. Grabbed by Price. Price on a 2-on-1 over to Nance. Ball knocked away by Cheevius very nicely and out of bounds. 20 on the shot clock for the Cavs. 31-26 Cleveland. 11-12 to play of the first half. On the baseline to the right of the basket, Hot Rod Williams into Elo. Elo give to Doherty on the wing. Doherty standing on the three-point arc. Back on the right side to Hot Rod. Hot Rod Williams back out front to Elo. Elo to the line, to the lane. Dish to Doherty. Baseline six-footer on the rim. No. Ball slapped outside by Nance, but he slapped it to short. Down the floor to Frank Johnson. He drives, lays it up. No good. Thorpe follows. Ball knocked away. Thorpe got it again and slammed it home. Otis Thorpe with 5. 31-28 Cleveland. Mike Sanders getting ready to come back in. 10:40 to play of the first half. Elo well outside. Gives the ball to Hot Rod. Hot Rod at the top of the key. Off of the right wing to Price. Price unloads the three. Got it! Price with 10, and he was well behind that three-point line when he unloaded that one. 34-28 Cavs. 10:20 to play in the half. Tree Rollins getting ready to come on. Elo knocked the ball away from Cheevius to Doherty down the floor to Price. Price comes right down the middle, puts it up. Good foul! Price with 12. He'll look for 13 at the line. Nance and Doherty sit out. The foul was on Purvis Short. His first, Rockets first. Now we have changes all over the place. Sleepy Floyd is back in with 6 points. Mike Woodson is back in with 2 points. Hakeem Olajuwon is back in with 7 points and 2 fouls. They're going to get Olajuwon to go back in there and go against Tree Rollins. Rollins in at center, averaging 2 points per ball game. Doherty sits down with 3 points and a foul. Price, who made it 36-28, is at the free throw line and hits. 13 points for Mark Price, and the Cavaliers have a 37-28 advantage. 10:07 to play, first half. Floyd to the right side against Price. Floyd dribbling back out front to Buck Johnson, who's returned to the ball game. With the ball into McCormick, who's now at forward. Woodson into Olajuwon. Bounce back out to Buck Johnson on the wing. Floyd for a three off the rim to Price. And Price is grabbed as he came down the floor trying to unload a pass to Hot Rod. And with this, a timeout is called. The foul was on Buck Johnson. That will be his third. Timeout with 5:47 to play. All right, the Cavaliers with a 37-28 advantage. They've hit 3 out of their first 4 coming into the second quarter. 1 of 1 at the line. Rockets 1 of 4 for shooting in the onset of the second quarter, and 1 of 2 from the line. And the Cavs still hold that 16-13 rebounding edge. Cavaliers will have the basketball, and Mike Sanders will inbound it. Ron Harper is back into the ball game with 6 points. So the guard combination now is Elo and Harper. Walter Berry checks in for the first time. They let him go in New Jersey, and Houston picked him up. 6'8", playing with his 4th team in 3 years. There's a message in there somewhere. Averaging 8.5 points a ball game for the season, 7 a game with the Rockets. Into the forecourt of the right wing, Sanders gives the ball to Harper. Harper, the bounce over to Hot Rod. Hot Rod at the top of the key. Hot Rod holding the ball over his head. He's looking, dribbles over to the right side, then back on the left to Harper, up from 18. Good. Ron Harper with 8, and the Cavaliers lead 39-28. Into the forecourt between the circles. Sleepy Floyd over on the left wing against Elo. Floyd backs outside the three-point arc. Bounce to Berry. Berry top of the three-point arc. Off on the left side to Woodson. Woodson on the left side. Back out to Floyd. Around to the right side to Walter Berry. Berry muscles in. He spins. Rollins tied him up. Walter Berry and Rollins will jump in the circle. Walter Berry does everything left-handed. He will do nothing to his right. He never has. He never will. And that time Rollins, anticipating that, was there to stop his shot. Rollins taps the ball to Sanders. The Cavs lead 39-28. 3 minutes gone in the second period. Harper to the timeline to the forecourt, drops the ball but picks it back up. Gives to Tree at the top of the three-point arc. Rollins holding the ball over to Sanders on the left wing. Sanders, 10 on the shot clock. Inside, Hot Rod gets in under the basket, and McCormick just grabbed and spun him around by the arm. McCormick with his first foul. Tim decided he did not want to see a slam dunk at this particular moment. So it puts Hot Rod on the free throw line. John, 4 points in the ball game. Hot Rod is a free throw shooter. Is 72%. He puts the first one up and good. 5 points for Hot Rod Williams and the Cavaliers with a 40-28 advantage. 8:44 to play in the half. Hot Rod again. Good. John with 6, and the Cavs move ahead by 13 at 41-28. Up in the backcourt, Floyd over the timeline into the forecourt between the circles against Elo. Pass off of the right side to Walter Berry. Berry dribbles to the circle. He spins and walks with the ball. Walter kept hippity-hopping down the lane without benefit of the dribble. Harper into Elo. Elo into the forecourt of the left wing. On the left side, Sanders. Sanders runs it into the middle, puts it up and in. Sanders with his first 2, and the Cavaliers have a 43-28 advantage. On the right wing, Woodson outside the three-point arc. The lob inside to Olajuwon. Drops the ball, picks it back up, spins, and walks with the ball. Cavaliers get it back. It'll be Rollins to inbound to Harper. Harper quickly to the forecourt. Comes down the left side against Walter Berry. Can't get to the baseline. Brings it back outside. Harper on the wing from 18. Good. Harper with 10, and the Cavaliers now 45-28 with 7:57 to play in the first half. Into the forecourt. Cavs on a 14-zip run. Top of the key, and there's a reach-in by Elo. Well, Elo has his first foul. First one, the second one of the Cavs in the second quarter. 7:49 to play in the first half. Thorpe is back into the ball game with 5 points. Otis Thorpe. There's Woodson lobbing the ball in to Floyd. Floyd to the top of the three-point arc. Comes down the lane, lays it up. No good. Rebound outside to Hot Rod. Down the floor to Harper. Harper driving to the middle. Tried to dish it off to Sanders, and a foul is called. The foul on Walter Berry. Berry with his first, and that is the 4th on Houston as a team. They say foul to the act of shooting. That is debatable, but Harper will go to the line for 2. Harper 4 for 4 at the stripe. Puts the first one up on the rim, and it rolls off. Cavaliers leading 45-28. 7:39 to play in the first half. Harper shoots again. That one is again off the rim, and the rebound Olajuwon. Olajuwon in the backcourt gives to Floyd. Floyd comes to the forecourt of the right wing. 7.5 minutes to play in the first half. Floyd dribbling with the right hand, draws the double team, steps around Hot Rod, and now what? Called an illegal defense on the Cavs' Mike Sanders. So a new shot clock and the ball on the far side of the forecourt. 45-28 Cavaliers. 7:25 to play in the half. Woodson into Floyd. Floyd takes it out to the top of the three-point arc. Back of the right wing, Woodson for the 3. Got it. Mike Woodson with 5. And the Cavaliers 45-31. Into the forecourt. Harper. Harper feeds along the left side. Hot Rod shot in the air. Off the rim. No. Rebound slapped around. Picked up by Olajuwon down the floor. Floyd has it away from Sanders. Spins at the free throw line. He's wide open, and he hits. Sleepy Floyd spun around, suddenly found there was nobody anywhere around him. The Cavaliers now have a 12-point lead. Harper topside to Sanders. Sanders at the top of the key, back to Harper. Harper goes into the lane, puts up an 8-footer, glass and rim, comes off to Tree Rollins, back up and in. Tree with his first 2, Cavs 47-33, 6:28 to play in the half. On the right wing, Sleepy Floyd, the bounce into Olajuwon, draws the double team, shot up blocked by Rollins, and they'll call the foul. The foul is on Rollins. Rollins with his first, the Cavs with their 3rd. Timeout Cleveland. 6:22 to play in the first half. The Cavs 47-33, and we will take this time out of the Cleveland Cavalier Radio Basketball. Cavaliers with a 47-33 advantage and 6:22 to play in the first half. Cavs have now hit 7 of 10 in the period, 17 of 31 for the ball game. The Rockets are 3 of 7 in this quarter. and 14 of 33 for the contest. The free throw line, the Cavs are 11 of 14. Houston 3 of 4, and the Cavs with an 18-15 rebounding edge. Well, the nice thing about it, the Cavaliers have been able to increase their lead without Mark Price, who's taken a bit of a breather. Right now, they have Craig Elo operating at point guard along with Ron Harper. Sanders, Williams, and Rollins rounded out. That last foul charged to Tree Rollins, and it puts Akeem Olajuwon on the free throw line. Olajuwon has 7 points in the ball game and is 1 for 1 at the stripe. Cavaliers lead by 14. Could be 12 when Olajuwon gets done. 6:22 to go at a half. One up. Good. Olajuwon with his 8th point of the contest. He had 30 points, 15 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 blocks when the Cavs played them in Houston, including the game winner. He hit both free throws, has 9, and the Cavs are up 47-35. Into the forecourt, Harper. Harper working against Woodson between the circles. Feeds to Hot Rod. Hot Rod out front. Buck Johnson is right on his case. The ball goes to Harper. He right of the lane, and a pass kick back outside. They'll put a new shot clock up and give it to the Cavs. 6:06 to play in the half. Sanders will inbound in front of the Cavalier bench. Sanders gets the ball, flips to Harper. Harper to Rollins. Tree at the top of the three-point arc. Right wing to Elo. Elo down the right side to Hot Rod. Hot Rod against Thorpe and back outside to Elo. Elo with 16 on the shot clock. Gets away from a bear hug by Floyd. Hot Rod feeds it inside. Sanders keeps it alive out of the corner. Give to Elo. Elo with 8 on the clock to the free throw line. Under to Hot Rod. He slams it. Hot Rod with 8. 49-35 Cavaliers. Sleepy Floyd to the other end. Floyd back outside. Floyd pressure from Elo. Bounce left of the lane to Thorpe. Goes into the lane. He goes to the basket. His shot is no good. Rollins with a rebound ahead to Elo. And the ball stolen from behind by Olajuwon. Olajuwon heads back down the floor. Give to Thorpe. Right side Woodson. Woodson right of the lane. Puts up the jumper. No good. And Olajuwon bangs it home. Olajuwon with 11. Cavaliers 49-37 with 5:15 to play in the first half. Elo into the forecourt. Elo on the right wing. Dribbling with the left hand. Stops, feeds to Harper. Harper gets inside. Woodson goes to the basket and slams it home with 2 guys hanging on it. 12 points for Harper. 51-37 Cleveland. 4:57 to play in the half. Floyd to the top of the key. Off of the right side to Purvis Short. Back outside to Floyd. Around to the left wing to Woodson. Woodson to the line to the lane. Deals it over to Short. Puts up his jumper from the right of the lane. No good. Rebound Sanders. Sanders clears it to Elo at the timeline. Elo into the forecourt of the right wing. Fires it into Harper. Harper turns on Short, who pushed the ball away, and Harper as well. Cavs ball. In comes Price with 13 points, and Elo sits down scoreless, but Elo did a nice job running the ball club at point guard. 51-37 Cavs. Sanders baseline right of the basket, and an immediate whistle, and a 2-shot foul will be called. The foul was on Sleepy Floyd. Floyd with his 2nd foul. Floyd must really want to get to know the Cavs better. He's been hugging most of them all afternoon, and this time he got caught, and Price will go to the line. 51-37, and Price hits the free throw. Mark with his 14th point of the ball game. Cavaliers ahead 52-37. And again, Price gets the ball from Jess Kersey. Sights it, line to the right, puts it up and in. Price with 15 points in the ball game. He's now hit 35 free throws in a row, by the way. 53-37 Cavs. In the backcourt, Short. Short with pressure from Sanders, doubled by Price. They knocked the ball free, but Short got it back. Gets it over to Otis Thorpe. Pass to Woodson. He runs into Rollins, and Rollins blocked the shot. Ball on the floor, grabbed by Harper. Harper into the forecourt. Harper to the top of the key. Fires the ball away to Short. Back down the floor to Woodson. Woodson stops, pulls up, shoots over Tree, and hits. Woodson with 7. 53-39 Cavaliers. 4:07 to play in the first half. With the basketball, Sanders. Sanders on the wing, over to Hot Rod. Hot Rod left of the circle against Otis Thorpe. Hot Rod holding the ball, gives to Rollins. Rollins turns on Olajuwon. Rollins gives to Sanders. Sanders on the left side against Short down to the baseline. His shot is up, in and out. Rebound, Olajuwon. Olajuwon over to Floyd. Floyd bringing the ball into the forecourt of the right wing to Woodson. Woodson right side. Purvis Short wide open, shoots, hits. Purvis short with 6. Cavaliers 53-41 with 3.5 minutes to play in the second quarter. Price to the line, to the lane, drives. He didn't get it to drop, but he was fouled, and the foul is again on Floyd. Sleepy Floyd picking up his 3rd foul. Trey Rollins sits down, and Brad Doherty is back in. Rollins down with 2. And Doherty back in with 3 points to the foul. Larry Nance returns to the ball game with 11 points to the foul. Frank Johnson will be back in scoreless as they put Sleepy Floyd down due to the 3 fouls. 3:26 to play in the first half. Price at the free throw line. Mark has 15 points in the ball game. 1 up. 1 in. 16 for Price. And the Cavs 54-41 with 3:26 to play in the first half. Price again. Good again. 17 for Mark Price. And the Cavs lead 55-41. In the backcourt, the quick pitch ahead to Thorpe into the forecourt. Right wing Woodson. Right of the lane. Flips it up. Good off the glass. Woodson with 9. 55-43 Cavaliers. Price in the backcourt. Down to 3:12 to play in the half. Harper taking the ball into the forecourt against Woodson. Harper at the top of the three-point arc. Bounce left side. Price from 20. Good. 19 points for Mark Price, and it's 57-43. 2:55 to play in the first half. Frank Johnson dribbling, goes over to the left wing. Stops, steals the ball inside to Thorpe. Outside to Purvis short. Stoops, gives the ball to Woodson down the right side. Woodson's jumper, good again. Right now, Woodson's keeping him in the neighborhood. 57-45 Cavs, 2:34 to play in the first half. Price comes into the forecourt. Price on the right wing against Frank Johnson. Price dribbling with the right hand, top side to Doherty, alley-oop inside to Harper, lost control of the ball, that comes away to Woodson. Woodson down the floor to Frank Johnson. Johnson drives to the middle, puts it up, no good. Rebound, Olajuwon puts it in, and he's fouled. Olajuwon with 13 will look for 14 at the line. Timeout. The foul is on Sanders. That is his first, and that is the Cavs' 4th. Timeout with 2:16 to play in the half. 59-45 Cleveland on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Great. Oh, that's right. Mark Heffernan has the Cavs big band here today, as well as all of the other goodies, the Cavs dance team. And by the way, for all you Mark Heffernan fans, and I know there are many of you out there, Wednesday night at halftime, we will be talking to Mark Heffernan about the game presentation. Mark seems to think that there are other things that, affect the presentation of the game. Wednesday night, we're going to tell him the truth. Winning is the only thing that affects the presentation of the game. All of the rest of it are just candles on the cake. All right, at the free throw line, Olajuwon puts it up on the rim, comes off to Doherty, and the Cavs maintain that 10-point advantage at 57-47. Into the forecourt, Price. Price between the circles. Stops, gives the ball to Nance. Nance on the three-point arc. Pass inside. Sanders turns, and the ball stolen by Purvis short. Over to Frank Johnson. 2 minutes to go. Johnson fires to Olajuwon. He gets under the basket. Blocked by Nance. Doherty got it out to Sanders. Cross-court pass off the hand of Frank Johnson and out of bounds. Cavs get it back. 57-47 Cleveland. Ball into Price. Price quickly to the forecourt against Johnson between the circles. Price sets it up with 1:45 to go. Right side Nance from 18. Nope. Rebound grab by Purvis short. Short clears it out to Frank Johnson. Johnson comes into the forecourt of the right wing. Johnson outside the three-point arc. Inside a Thorpe pick, drives to the basket. Threw one up off the glass. No, but he was put on the deck and will go to the line. Foul is on Larry Nance. Nance with his second foul. That also puts the Cavs over the limit, but Johnson was fouled in the act of shooting anyway. Frank hasn't scored as yet, but he has the golden chance now. Frank Johnson, an 82% free throw shooter. 1:32 to play in the half. The Cavs lead by 10, by 9, as Frank Johnson has his first point of the ball game. 57-48 with 1:32 to play in the half. Johnson with that white 15 in his red uniform unloads and hits again. 57-49. Cavs by 8. Ball into Doherty. Give to Price. Price brings the ball up to the timeline and into the forecourt. Down the right side to Larry Nance. Nance out front to Doherty. Doherty over to Sanders on the left wing. Sanders on the left side. Holds the ball, gets it into Doherty, turns in the lane against Olajuwon. Jump hook, no good. Rebound picked off by Woodson. Woodson drops it off to Frank Johnson. Johnson on the right wing. Johnson outside the three-point arc over to Woodson. Drops it in and right by Thorpe and out of bounds. Cavs get it back. 1:06 to play in the first half. Harper into Price. Price brings the ball to the timeline and into the forecourt with 1:02 to play in the first half. Price to Doherty. Doherty out between the circles. Olajuwon comes out on him with 55 seconds to play. Bounce to the right side. Price. Price. Jump shot. Good. Mark Price with 21. And the Cavaliers 59-49. 47 seconds to play in the first half. Into the forecourt. Frank Johnson between the circles. Johnson dribbling with the right hand. Johnson still out there. Works to the right wing. Stops. Lobs the ball into Olajuwon. Stops in the lane. Put up a shot off the back of the rim to Doherty. Doherty in the backcourt and outside to Harper. 28 seconds to play. 20 on the shot clock. Up to the timeline. Into the forecourt comes Ron Harper. Harper coming off the center circle with 20 seconds to play in the half. 18 seconds. Harper over to the left wing as the Cavs spread the floor. Then Harper drives down the middle, put it up against Thorpe. No good. Ball knocked outside. Grabbed by Sanders. Into the lane. Fires it up. In and out. Tip no. Rebound Olajuwon with 5 seconds. Down for Woodson. He pulls up on the run and fires. No good. Rebound Woodson again. On the rim and in at the buzzer. At halftime, it is Cleveland 59, Houston 51 on the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network. Defense against Olajuwon, who, when he's cooking, is virtually indefensible. Olajuwon with 13 points, 9 rebounds, and a blocked shot, and a couple of steals in the first half. And Mike Woodson, now that's right, Woodson has 13 points because he hit that bucket at the buzzer to make it 59-51. Cavaliers, as I say, will be home on Wednesday night to play the New Jersey Nets, and Friday night they will be home to deal with the Portland Trail Blazers and their new coach, Rick Adelman. Looks as though the Cavs are going back to their original starting 5. Cavs will have Doherty at center, flanked by Nance and Sanders, and the guards Harper and Price. Only one other score to report at the moment. That's in Chicago, where at the end of the first quarter, the Chicago Bulls lead the Portland Trail Blazers 29-21. Houston will start the third quarter with the basketball and the 8-point lead for the Cavs. And the Rockets move from left to right into the third quarter. Sleepy Floyd at the top of the three-point arc, off to the left side to Buck Johnson, back to Floyd. Floyd on the left wing now over to Woodson. Woodson pass inside to Thorpe, swings into the lane, puts up the 8-footer on the rim, no good. The rebound, Sanders, his 10th. Gives the ball to Price. Price into the forecourt of the right wing. Harper underneath the Doherty, slams it home. Brad Doherty with 5, and the Cavs are up 61-51 with 11:27 to play in the third quarter. Into the forecourt, Floyd to the right wing. Floyd against Price. Floyd moves around to pick by Thorpe, back on the sideline to Woodson. Woodson puts up a long jumper and nails it. Mike Woodson with 15 points in the ball game, and the Cavs lead again by 8, 61-53. Price, the bounce into Doherty, turns to the basket and is fouled by Olajuwon. Now, Kim Olajuwon wants to know how come Jess Kersey, who was standing right on top of the play, didn't blow his whistle, and Bob Delaney, who was standing somewhere near Medina, made the call. Good question, no answer. Foul number 3 on Akeem Olajuwon. And Brad Doherty will try to convert it into free throws. He hits the first of 2 and has his 6th point of the ball game. Brad now 2 of 3 at the line. Cavs 62-53. 11:04 to play third quarter. The second toss spins the rim and comes off to Thorpe. Thorpe hands it to the backcourt to Floyd. Floyd comes into the forecourt. Floyd, Johnson, and Olajuwon now all playing with 3 fouls. Floyd on the right wing against Price. Floyd stops inside to Olajuwon, left of the lane, draws a crowd. He turns again, back outside to Thorpe, around on the left side, Woodson. Woodson got a bump by Harper, but manages to unload off the rim, no, and Buck Johnson went up and put it in. Buck Johnson with 4, and the Cavs lead is 62-55. Price on the left wing, out front to Doherty, back to Price. Price with Floyd on him. Inside, Doherty turns, goes around Olajuwon under the basket, put it up, no. Follows and scores. Brad Doherty with 8. They'll take it to Olajuwon now with those 3 fouls on him. 10:18 to play, third quarter. Cavs by 9. Floyd between the circles, left wing to Woodson. Woodson the pass into Olajuwon. Draws the double team. Out to Buck Johnson to the line. 15-footer no good. Rebound slapped off the mark and out of bounds. Houston. Price tried to save it, and the eyes of some did, but Gus Kersey says, nope, out of bounds. Kersey, Rooney, and Delaney are the referees for this one today. On the baseline to the left of the basket, Buck Johnson in quickly to Woodson. His jumper is off the rim, and the rebound to Nance to Price. Price coming over the timeline into the forecourt. Price drives down the lane, puts the shot up on the rim and in. Price took it right down Bloody Nose Alley and scores 23 for Mark Price. 66-55 Cavs. Floyd back on the right side to Buck Johnson. Johnson to Floyd, and on the left wing to Woodson. Woodson into Thorpe. Thorpe double team. Back out of the left side. Woodson fires in and out. Rebound grabbed by Olajuwon. He spins, goes back in. Blocked by Nance. Out to Price. Price into the forecourt. Price driving the middle. Skids to a stop. Left side. Sanders shoots. Good! Sanders with 4, and the Rockets take time. 9:21 to play in the third quarter. Cavaliers 68, Houston 55. We'll take this time out of the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Network for Labatt. 5, while the Rockets are 2 of 8, and the Cavs with a 4-3 rebounding edge to make it 29-25 for the ball game. Cavs tickets are available at the Coliseum box office 10 to 6 Monday through Saturday, and on Sunday as well if there is an event scheduled. You can, of course, pick them up at all Ticketron outlets in northeastern Ohio. And you can call Ticketron phone charge. Cleveland 524-0000, and out of town 1-800-255. Oh, check that. Out of town 1-800-225-7337. That's 1-800-225-7337. Houston with the ball. Cavs with a 13-point lead. On the right wing, Floyd against Price. Outside to Woodson. Woodson against Harper. The pass into Olajuwon. He spins. He shoots. He hits. Olajuwon now with 15 points in the ball game. Into the forecourt of the left wing, Price. Price down the sideline. Price against Johnson. Back out to Doherty. Doherty back on the left wing to Price. Inside, Sanders puts up a jumper. Good. Sanders now with 6, and the Cavaliers lead 70-57 with 8:47 to play in the third quarter. On the right wing, Floyd. Floyd dribbling with the left hand. Stops, feeds it along the sideline to Woodson. Woodson against Harper. Woodson still on the right side. He turns, feeds it back out to Floyd. Over to Buck Johnson with 8 on the shot clock. Johnson the lob inside to Thorpe. Spins and lays it in. Thorpe with 7. Cavaliers 70-59 with 8:23 to play. Halftime, Chicago 50, Portland 41. Right side, Nance. Nance unloads it, missed it. Rebound off the hand of Olajuwon and out of bounds. Cavs going to break. On the baseline to the left of the basket, Sanders flips it outside to Nance. Nance left wing between the circles to Price on the right side. Down on the baseline, Harper fires in and out. Rebound off the hand of Olajuwon, but outside to Woodson. Woodson takes it ahead into the forecourt to Buck Johnson. Johnson right wing, lob inside to Thorpe. Again, spins to the hole. Nance blocked his shot. Ball on the floor. Sanders gets a hold of it. Clears it out to Harper. 3-on-2 to Doherty down the middle. Doherty right to the basket. Wham with the right hand. Doherty with 10, and the Cavs lead 72-59. 7:43 to play in the half. Into the ball game, in fact. On the right wing, Floyd. Floyd dribbling with the right hand. Inside to Olajuwon, turns to his right, forced the shot and got it. Olajuwon with 17. Cavaliers 72-61, 7:26 to play in the third quarter. Price into the forecourt. Price on the left wing. Bounce down the left side. Sanders feeds into Doherty, muscles it up and in. Right over Olajuwon. Doherty now with a dozen, and the Cavaliers 74-61. Floyd into the forecourt of the right wing. Floyd against Price. Top side to Olajuwon. Olajuwon to the line. Spins to the lane. His 15-footer off the front of the rim. Rebound Harper. Harper comes down the floor into the forecourt. 3-on-2. Drives the middle and is fouled by Woodson. 6:56 to play in the third quarter. The foul is on Mike Woodson. That is Woodson's second foul. And it's also the second on Houston as a team. Cavs ball. Harper on the free throw line to shoot 2. Ron hit the first 4 and then missed the last 2. Woodson arguing with Wally Rooney about the last foul call, but it was a rather obvious hip. 74-61, 6:56 to go, third quarter. Line to the left, and Ron Harper nails the free throw for his 13th point of the ball game. Cavaliers up 75-61, 6:56 to play, third quarter. New Jersey Wednesday, Portland on Friday. Second toss, good. 14 points for Harper, and the Cavs 76-61 with 6:53 to play in the quarter. Driving down the middle is Woodson off the right side. Feeds it back out to Thorpe. Left wing Floyd from 20 hits. Sleepy Floyd with 10, and the Cavaliers 76-63. Into the forecourt comes Harper. Harper against Woodson. Bounce to Nance. Nance on the right wing. Nance out of the right sideline to Price. Price around Nance to the top of the three-point arc. He's got Otis Thorpe on him. Price drives by him down the lane, lays it off to Doherty. Little 8-footer up on the rim, bounces no. Nance the rebound, back up no, but foul. Foul's going to be on McCormick, who just came into the ball game for Olajuwon. McCormick with his second foul. That's going to put 3 on the board for Houston, and as Larry Nance shoots 2 free throws, we'll pause for station identification. This is the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network.
This is AM 850 WRMR Cleveland.
The music of your life.
Cavs leading by 15 as Nance hit both free throws. 78-63. Woodson on the right side against Harper. Draws the double team. Nance blocked his shot. Grabbed by Doherty. Outside to Price. Price into the forecourt. Left side. Harper drives by Thorpe. Put it up. Shot blocked by McCormick. Outside to Floyd. Floyd into the forecourt. Floyd skids to his stop. Off of the right side to Woodson. Woodson around McCormick's pick. Works to the top of the key. Off of the left wing. Floyd down the left side. Johnson under to Thorpe. Puts it up. No. Rebound Doherty. Outside to Price. Price into the forecourt. Scoops to Sanders. Sanders drives to the basket. Put it on the rim and in. Sanders now with 8. The Cavs 60, make it 80-63, and Houston wants another 20-second timeout, and they take it. Houston takes the 20 with 5:26 to play here in the third quarter. The Cavaliers have opened up an 80-63 advantage. I want to remind you the doors here at the Coliseum open for all Cavs home games 1 hour and 15 minutes before game time. Cavaliers in the midst of a 6-game homestand. Still coming up, New Jersey Wednesday night at 7:30. Portland Friday night at 7:30. Then after a break for the weekend, one of the few weekends in which the Cavs will not play ball this year, they come back next Tuesday for a game at 7:30, actually at 8 o'clock for the Detroit Pistons. Then they have one on the 2nd of March with San Antonio, and then go back on the road on March the 3rd to play at Detroit, and then on out to the West Coast. Eric Chivis into the ball game. He has yet to score. On the right wing, Floyd. Floyd against Price. 5:19 to play in the third quarter. Floyd stops, looks, feeds into Thorpe, off his hand, out of bounds. Cavs ball. Cavaliers leading by 18. Here comes Hakeem Olajuwon back into the ball game. And sitting down is Otis Thorpe with 7. Olajuwon is back in there with 17. It is obvious that Olajuwon has to play if they have any hopes of coming back. Doherty on the right side to Nance. Nance with the basketball. Top side Price gives to Doherty. Off of the right side Nance. Nance against McCormick. Shoots over him. Shot on the rim. Ricochets off to McCormick. Clears the ball out to Floyd. Floyd coming up in the backcourt over the timeline. Works to the right wing. Back to the circle. Stops. Goes left wing to Buck Johnson. Now to McCormick. 15-footer from the right side of the key is good. McCormick with 4. Cavs lead 80-65. 4:37 to play, third quarter. Harper up to the timeline into the forecourt against Derek Chivas. Between the circles. Right side, Price. Price whips it into Nance, turns on McCormick, and slams it with a right hand. 15 for Larry Nance. 82-65 Cavs, 4:20 to play in the third quarter. Chivas inside to Olajuwon. Olajuwon works into the lane for a shot blocked by Nance, and a foul will be called on Doherty, I believe. Yep, Brad Doherty tagged with his second foul. And the Cavaliers with their first in the third quarter. Hakeem Olajuwon, 17 points in the ball game. He's hit 3 out of 4, now 4 out of 5, and that makes it 82-66 in favor of the Cavaliers. Olajuwon again. No, rebound off the rim to Sanders. Sanders has a dozen rebounds in this game. Into the forecourt, Price. Price down the right side, back out to Nance. Nance on the three-point arc, back to Price. Price then around McCormick to the top of the key. Right wing Sanders, the 20-footer. Rim, no. Rebound, Olajuwon. Flips it outside to Chivas into the forecourt of the right wing. Chivas double team. Pressure from Harper into McCormick. McCormick is trying to muscle up a shot. Blocked by Nance. Nance kicks it out of the air. Nance to the backcourt, gives to Price. Nance has got to have about 7 or 8 blocked shots now. Into the forecourt, Price. This crowd standing up. Cavs leading by 16. 3.5 to play. Price drives up. No. Should have been goaltending. No call. McCormick with a rebound. Outside to Floyd. Floyd down to the circle. Deflected pass. Grabbed by Harper. Sanders knocked it away. Harper down the floor to Price. Price on the right side from 20. Good. 25 for Mark Price, and the Cavaliers are ahead by 18, and Houston takes another timeout. Now a standing O for the Cavaliers. 3:06 to play in the third quarter. The Cavaliers 84-66 on the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network. The Cavs will award two $1,000 scholarships to local high school student seniors. Must be able to submit an official application form, and applications and information may be obtained from high school guidance counselors or by writing to NBA Scholarships, Cleveland Cavaliers, Post Office Box 355, the Coliseum, Richfield 44286. Also, two $500 awards will be given by the Cavs, and applications must be received by March 3rd, so you'd better do it now. 3:06 to go. Cavaliers leading 84-66. We're in the third quarter. Frank Johnson will be coming back in now for the Houston Rockets with 2. Nance has blocked 7 shots thus far. The Cavaliers have 9 in the ball game. Cavaliers are 10 of 18 from the field here in the third quarter. The Rockets are 7 of 18. Going to have to get out the press guide here and start to look at Mike Sanders' numbers to see just how he stacks up in terms of his career rebounds in a single game. Well, with the basketball, it comes into McCormick. McCormick over to Chivas. Chivas working the left side of the forecourt. Hot Rod is in now to play forward in place of Nance. Pass deflected, knocked away, kicked, and what do we have? Loose ball foul. A push. Frank Johnson, the guilty party. And Johnson with his first foul. And the Rockets, their 4th as a team, and the Cavs with the ball. Into the forecourt. Price, top side to Doherty. Pressure from Olajuwon. Doherty deals it inside to Hot Rod to the lane. Out to Sanders. Baseline right. Jump shot. No good. Rebound Olajuwon. Outside to Frank Johnson. Johnson brings it down the middle. Top of the key. Puts up his jumper. On the rim. No rebound. Harper knocked away and out of bounds. Cavs ball. 2:30 to play in the third quarter. The Cavaliers lead by 18. Harper into the forecourt. Harper backs outside the three-point arc. Out near the center circle. Harper dribbling against Chivas. Right side. Price puts up the jumper. Good. Cavs by 20. 27 for Mark Price. Cavaliers leading 86-66. Into the forecourt. Off on the left side. Frank Johnson pass inside for McCormick. Out of bounds off McCormick. Cavs ball. Sanders Had a career high of 13 rebounds in a game against New Jersey in 1987. He's got to be very close to that right now. He had 9 at halftime. Harper sets as though he was going to do a 3 inside to Doherty with 1:48 to play. Doherty turns, and Olajuwon knocks him down, grabs the ball, down floor, deflected pass, picked up by Chivas, runs inside, throws it up, in and out, back in. Derek Chivas with his first 2. 86-68 Cavs with 1:33 to play in the third quarter. Into the forecourt, Harper. Harper on the left wing. Harper bounced left side Sanders. Sanders into Doherty, and the ball knocked away, picked up by the Rockets. Down floor, Price and Johnson battle out of bounds. They'll give it to Houston. I want to tell you, there is some serious hand-to-hand combat going on between Doherty and Olajuwon at the moment. Sanders sits down. Elo back into the game. Elo in scoreless with a foul. And the Cavs are going to take time. We'll keep it here. We paid the rent. Cavaliers take a timeout. They certainly had one they could take. The Rockets have already taken 2 in this period. It is 86-68 in favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers with 1:17 to play in the third quarter. Incidentally, if you're looking for someone to come speak to your particular group or organization, you might want to know about the Cavaliers and Coliseum Speakers Bureau. Current and former Cavalier players are available, along with front office personnel. You can contact Bob Zink in the Cavs PR office for details. Call him at area 216-659-9100. Now, as far as the Coliseum is concerned, certainly Coliseum personnel are available. You can contact Phyllis Salem, the Coliseum PR director. Same phone number, 216-659-9100. Or check the Coliseum by mail at Box 355, Richfield, Ohio, 44286. Cavaliers, they've lost 4 in a row to Houston here in Houston. Overall, the Rockets have the edge in the series between the two ball clubs, 44-28. Although the Cavs do have an 18-17 edge over the Rockets in Cleveland overall, and that goes way back to the early days when these Rockets were the San Diego Rockets. 1:17 to go in the third quarter. The Cavaliers by 18. Cleveland coming out with Price and Elo at the guards. I'll take that back. It'll be Price and Harper at the guards. Elo now at small forward. Hot Rod Williams the other forward, and Doherty at center. Brad Doherty still talking to Bob Delaney about the last couple of muggings at the other end of the floor, courtesy of Hakeem Olajuwon. Chivius inbounds to Frank Johnson. Johnson on the right wing against Price. Johnson stops, deals the ball to Chivius. He brings it down the lane, put up a shot over the hoop, grab Parmick, put it back up and in. Parmick with 6, and there were a number of editorial comments in the wake of that basket. 57 seconds to play in the third quarter. Harper on the left wing. Spins, goes left sideline to Price. Price inside to Doherty. Doherty back out to Elo. Elo top of the key to Harper. Harper into the lane, up with the 8-footer. Good! Harper with 16 on the Cavaliers lead, 88-70 with 38 seconds to play in the third quarter as Darnell Valentine gets ready to come on. Down the right side goes Frank Johnson, gets it up, no, rebound Hot Rod, and down the floor to Price. Price to the left wing, stops, gives to Elo, he bangs into Buck Johnson and shoots off the rim, of the rebound McCormick. McCormick fires it to the timeline to Frank Johnson. Johnson out near the time stripe with 16 seconds to play of the period. The Rockets can use them all, and they'll put some time off the clock. Johnson dribbling with a left hand out of the center circle, 7 seconds. Now Johnson works to the right sideline, feeds it off to Chivius. His shot from the corner off the rim, no good. And the rebound off the hand of Doherty and out of bounds. And at the end of 3 quarters of play, the Cleveland Cavaliers 88, the Houston Rockets 70 on the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network. And Tim McCormick keeps Otis Thorpe out of the ball game, at least for a while longer, and that's just fine by the Cavs because Thorpe is potentially an excellent offensive threat, although he has had a tough time today. Here's the attendance. 18,808 here this afternoon. Cavaliers with an 18-point lead, and Darnell Valentine in to play point guard, and Frank Johnson knocks the ball away. Valentine got it back, and he is fouled. Frank Johnson picking up another foul. That's Frank's second.
Foul number 15, Frank Johnson.
There's not a shooting foul, so the ball belongs to the Cavaliers. Harper over to Valentine, right back to Harper. Harper on the right wing. Harper drives down the right wing, give to Elo. Elo on the right side of the forecourt, back out to Harper. Harper well outside the three-point line with 12 in the shot clock. To Elo. Elo top of the key, covered by Buck Johnson. The pass into Doherty. Doherty against Olajuwon with 5 on the clock. Doherty got the ball. It's knocked away, picked up by Buck Johnson. Johnson to the backcourt, gives the ball to Frank Johnson. Frank takes it into the forecourt of the left side to Chivas. Chivas on the left, bounce into Olajuwon, and Olajuwon is kneeling on the baseline as he skidded over to get the ball. Cavaliers get it back. Into the forecourt, Harper, left side hot rod from the baseline. Shot didn't go. Rebound Doherty, knocked away by Buck Johnson and out of bounds. Cavaliers 88-70 with 53 seconds gone in the final period. 23 on the shot clock. Elo lobs the ball to Harper. Harper outside to Valentine. Valentine between the circles to the top of the key. Left wing Harper. Harper backs outside the three-point arc. Harper dribbling with the left hand. The bounce into Doherty. Doherty left of the lane. Backs in, and Olajuwon draws the double team. Turns, steps around Olajuwon. Shot up, no, but he was fouled by Olajuwon. Olajuwon picking up his 4th foul. That move, in fact, that move has now been used twice by Doherty against Olajuwon. It is one of Olajuwon's favorite moves. 10:50 to go. Doherty on the free throw line has 12 points in the ball game. Has hit 2 of 4 free throws. First one, good. Brad with 13. Here comes Otis Thorpe into the ball game. Thorpe comes back in to play forward with 7 points. That'll move McCormick into center, and Olajuwon sits down with 18 points and 4 fouls. Houston has to play tomorrow night at New York, then out to Chicago and Milwaukee. It's going to be a heck of a week for them. 2 free throws in the book for Brad Doherty. 90-70, the Cavs by 20. And with the basketball, the Houston Rockets. Chivas off on the left side to Buck Johnson. Johnson against Elo. Top side to McCormick. McCormick the lob inside. Hot Rod takes it away. Gives to Harper. Harper coming right down the middle. Gives to Doherty, and Doherty is fouled, driving to the basket. McCormick put him there. McCormick picking up his 3rd foul. And it will be Brad Doherty on the line. Doherty has 14 points in the ball game and is at 4 out of 6 free throws. 90-70 Cleveland, 10:31 to play in the ball game. Don Chaney is going to have to decide now pretty quick how, at what time he will start thinking about New York. 15 points for Doherty. The Cavs lead by 21. Houston will have to decide when this becomes a lost cause or whether they're going to just go all out for it regardless. 16 points for Doherty, hits a pair, and the Cavs are up by 22. Into the forecourt, Buck Johnson on the left wing. Off to the left side to Frank Johnson. Frank Johnson between the circles to the right wing against Valentine. Frank Johnson back outside. Hot Rod steals the ball. Hot Rod stopped it on the floor to Harper, to Valentine, to Hot Rod. Win! 10 points for Hot Rod, and the Cavs have blown it open, 94-70. 10:05 to play. Frank Johnson into the forecourt. And now Sleepy Floyd will be coming back up. Left side, Frank Johnson, pressure from Valentine. Frank Johnson pivoting, turning down to 7 on the shot clock, and a whistle and what? Timeout, Houston. Frank Johnson just couldn't get rid of the ball, and he had to call timeout. 9:50 to go in the ball game. 94-70 Cavs and the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network. And don't forget the rebounders, the official boosters club for the Cavs. Call 659-2219 to become part of the Cavaliers basketball family. Cavaliers with a 94-70 lead, 9:50 to go in the ball game. They have outscored the Houston Rockets in the second half, 35-19. In this final period now, the Cavaliers have shot 1 out of 2 from the field and 4 out of 4 from the line, while Houston just has run into to a buzzsaw. Cavaliers' defensive player today has been outstanding. The end of 3, Chicago continues to lead Portland 76 to 68. Sleepy Floyd checking in now for Houston. Floyd saddled with first half foul trouble, has 10 points in the game. Floyd to the far side of the forecourt, deals the ball into McCormick, back to Floyd, threw it back out to Buck Johnson, has to throw the 3 and missed it. Rebound out of bounds, Cavs ball. 9:43 to play in the ball game. Cavaliers have put together an outstanding defensive show here this afternoon. Valentine to Wheelo and back to Valentine. Valentine with pressure from Floyd on the left side to Williams, back out to Valentine. Valentine backs out to the timeline, feeds it into Hot Rod, ball knocked away by Buck Johnson. Ahead Woodson gives to Floyd, he drives. Elo blocked the shot, they'll call goaltending. Floyd has 12 points, and the Cavaliers 94 to 72. Elo went right up to the rim and blocked that shot, which is why it was goaltending. 9:21 to play. Into the forecourt. Harper, timeline, lobs over to Valentine. Valentine on the left wing. Back outside to Harper. Harper comes around Woodson, who takes a flop. Harper drives inside, give to Hot Rod. Wham! 12 points for Williams, and the Cavs 96-72. 9 minutes to play in the ball game. On the left wing, Woodson pass inside to McCormick, and the foul's going to be on Doherty off the ball. Brad picking up his 3rd foul. Brad's smile was such that he obviously was doing something. On the sideline, Floyd against Valentine, lobs out front to Woodson. Woodson goes into the lane for the 12-footer and gets it. Woodson with 17, and the Cavaliers lead 96-74 with 8:44 to go. On the right wing, Valentine. Valentine around Doherty, picked up by McCormick, now into Doherty, backs in and hooks. No, but a foul will be called. And the foul, I believe, is on Sleepy Floyd, who got caught in the mismatch. It is Floyd with his 4th foul. Ron Harper sitting down. 16 points. Larry Nance is back in the game with 15 points and 7 blocked shots. Doherty has 16 points in the ball game. Up, good. 17 for Doherty. Now what? Here comes Wally Rooney out to talk to Jess Kersey. It's 97-74. You hear Wally Rooney. They're talking about the clock. Shows 8:38 to play. They're checking with the gal who types out the play-by-play. Wally Rooney now goes down and chats with Coach Don Chaney of Houston. Don probably not in much of a mood to chat with anybody right now, and now Kersey and Rooney explain to Lenny Wilkins what's going on. Be that as it, oh, they're going to take the free throws away. They say there was no, the foul came before the shot, so they take the free throws away. They say the foul came before any shooting, and it was only the 4th. Valentine on the wing from 20. Shot didn't go, and the rebound brought down by Woodson. 96-74 Cleveland. Pass to Buck Johnson. He goes into the lane, throws up an 8-footer, and scores. Buck Johnson with 6, and the Cavaliers are up by 20. 96-76 with 8:19 to go. Into the forecourt to Elo. Lob down the left side to Hot Rod. Hot Rod dips to Valentine. He's in the lane. Back out to Hot Rod and walks with the ball. He shuffled his feet trying to pass it out on the left side. So the Rockets get the ball back. The Cavaliers leading by 20 with 8:10 to play in the ball game. Into the forecourt, Floyd. Floyd on the 3-point arc. Off of the left side to Woodson. Woodson, he walked with the ball. Did the same thing Valentine did. Shuffled his feet on the pass. 8:01 to play in the ball game. Cavaliers 96-76 with the ball. Elo into Valentine. Valentine into the forecourt, draws a double team down the left side. Hot Rod. Hot Rod on the left from 12 feet. Shot off the back of the rim. Ball slapped up. Grabbed by Elo. Elo brings it out on the right side. Skids to a stop. Back outside to Nance. Hands it back to Elo. Elo with the ball in for Doherty, but a whistle and a foul is called, and that's going to put the Rockets over the limit. The foul is on McCormick for hanging on to Doherty. So McCormick gets his 4th foul. Doherty will now get a chance at those free throws. And with this, the Cavaliers are going to take time. So there's timeout with 7:40 to play in the ball game. The Cavaliers 96-76 in the Cleveland Cavaliers radio basketball. All right, the Cavaliers with a 96-76 lead. Doherty with 16 points in the ball game has hit 6 out of 8 free throws. Cavaliers shooting 52% for the ball game to Houston's 43, and the Cavs have out-rebounded them 40-34. Doherty at the line to the left. Ready, aims, and fires. Good. 17 for Brad Doherty. Cavaliers cruising with a 21-point lead and 7:40 to go. Doherty ready again. Measures it. Up here. 18 for Doherty. And the Cavaliers 98-76. Thorpe gets it inbound to Woodson, ahead to Sleepy Floyd in the forecourt to McCormick. Cross-court Johnson whips it onto Thorpe, who slams it home with the right hand. Thorpe with 9. Cavaliers 98-78. 7:25 to play in the ball game. Valentine up to the timeline into the forecourt of the left wing, left side to Hot Rod Williams. Hot Rod left to the lane, under to Doherty. Went up for the slam, had it rejected. Picked out of there by Floyd. It was Buck Johnson who blocked the shot. He goes to the other end and threw it inside, deflected to Hot Rod Williams. Winds up, throws it down the floor to Doherty. Doherty on the right side. Holds the ball over his head, behind him to Elo. Elo on the right side. Stops. Holds the ball over his head. Ball into Doherty. Doherty double team, gets under the basket and stepped on the baseline, and that'll give it back to the Houston Rockets. 6:54 to play in the ball game. Johnson into Floyd. Floyd to the timeline into the forecourt. Floyd on the right wing against Valentine. Off of the right side to Buck Johnson. Johnson sideline right. Johnson the pass inside to Thorpe. He draws a big crowd, muscles it up and in. Thorpe with 11. Cavaliers lead 98-80, down to 6:34 to go. To the timeline to the forecourt, Valentine as Tree Rollins gets ready to come back in. Valentine the bounce to Hot Rod. Hot Rod holding the ball over his head. Hot Rod looking, deals it topside to Nance. Nance against Buck Johnson, turns, comes down the lane, ball knocked away and out of bounds. Cavs ball. Tree Rollins in. Rollins in with 2 points and a foul. Brad Doherty sits down with 18 points. Mark Price is coming to the table, and he'll be back in right now. Price returns with 27 points, and Craig Elo sitting down, scoreless. But Elo has done a lot of things very well. On the baseline, quick pitch into Valentine for 2. Darnell with his first 2, and they caught the Rockets sound asleep. Cavaliers 100-80. Into the forecourt, Sleepy Floyd. Floyd on the right wing to Thorpe. Thorpe against Hot Rod. Drops the ball inside to Woodson. Spins it up, no good off the glass, and a foul is called. Foul is on Valentine. Darnell with his first foul. Cavaliers up 100-80.
That's his first, team second.
At the free throw line, Woodson. Woodson hasn't been there as yet today. 5:59 to go, and Woodson's free throw crawls across the rim and goes off. Woodson is an 81% shooter. Now Olajuwon is back into the ball game with 18 points, and McCormick sits down with 6. Woodson again, rim and in. 18 for Woodson, and the Cavaliers lead 100-81. Up to the timeline, Valentine, 5:55 to go. Into the forecourt, Valentine against Woodson. Valentine on the left wing to Price, back to Valentine. He drives into the lane, a whistle and a foul on the pass-off. Foul is going to be charged to Woodson. Woodson with his 3rd foul. And the Houston Rockets, they're over the limit. Woodson sitting down. Frank Johnson comes back in. 100-81. Darnell Valentine on the free throw line. Darnell with a basket for 2. He is a 79% free throw shooter. Hits the first to 2 for his 3rd point of the ball game. And the Cavaliers are up 101-81. Second toss follows the first one in. 4 points for Valentine. 102-81. In the backcourt, Floyd. Floyd takes it to the timeline against Price between the circles, top of the three-point arc, top of the key, into the circle, turns to his right, feeds it back off Buck Johnson's hand, who goes back out, flags it down, into Olajuwon. The turnaround shot didn't go, but a whistle and a foul is called on Tree Rollins, I believe. Yep, Rollins tagged with his second foul. And on the Cavaliers, their third as a team. 102-81 Cavs, 5:31 to play in the ball game. Hakeem with 18 points in the game, averaging 24. It's the first one for his 19th. He had 30 in the first meeting with Cleveland. 5:31 to go. And on the rim and falls off. Rollins with a rebound. Tree gives to Valentine. Valentine takes the ball up into the forecourt. Valentine between the circles to the right wing. Right side to Price. Back to Valentine from the top of the key. Jumper on the rim. No good. Rebound Olajuwon. Clears it out to Sleepy Floyd. Floyd to the forecourt. Off of the right side. Frank Johnson from 18. Shot didn't go. Rebound grab by Thorpe. He hits the deck. While on the floor, gives to Buck Johnson. He falls down. Clears the ball to Frank Johnson. Frank gets into the lane. Walks with the ball. Now a 3-second violation. Wipes the whole thing out. We had about 4 turnovers and 5 violations and 6 fouls on that mess. And they finally called Olajuwon for a 3-second violation. 102-82 Cavs. 4:58 to go. Price coming up in the backcourt. Into the forecourt to Valentine. Darnell on the right wing. Randolph Keys getting ready to come on. Valentine out front to Hot Rod. Hot Rod back of the right wing to Valentine into Nance. Ball knocked away, stolen by Buck Johnson. Pass down floor to Floyd, back to Johnson. Over to Thorpe. He goes up and slams with the right hand. Thorpe with 13. Cavaliers, 102-84. Ball in the backcourt to Price. Cross court to Valentine. Valentine into the forecourt of the left wing between the circles. Back of the right wing to Price. Price, pressure from Frank Johnson down the sideline to Nance. Now to Valentine in the lane. Give to Hot Rod. Forces the shot and goes. Hot Rod with 14 on the Cavaliers. 104-84 with 4:10 to play. Floyd to the left wing to Buck Johnson. Drops the ball into Olajuwon. Hooks around Tree Rollins. Put up a shot that didn't drop. The foul will be called on Tree Rollins. Rollins now with his third foul. And on the Cavaliers, their 4th as a team. Olajuwon will shoot 2. Randolph Keys into the ball game, averaging 4 points a game. Olajuwon's first free throw is good. He now has 20 points in the contest. And they have been relatively hard to come by. Larry Nance finishes the afternoon with 15. Up and good. 21 for Olajuwon. Pass to the timeline, knocked away by Buck Johnson, out of bounds. Cavs ball. 4:03 to go. Here comes Walter Berry back into the ball game. He was in briefly in the first half, and Otis Thorpe sits down. And with that substitution, you have to believe that Don Cheney is starting to think about New York. Cavs by 18 with 4 minutes to play. Valentine into the forecourt, down the left sideline. Dribbles it back out on the wing. Sideline left to Keys. Top side to Price. Price on the right wing, dribbling with the right hand. Along the right sideline to Hot Rod Williams. Hot Rod bounces it into Tree. Turnaround jump hook across the hoop. Grabbed by Buck Johnson. Clears it down the floor to Frank Johnson. Bounce over to Walter Berry, who fumbled it out of bounds. 3:37 to go. Cavs lead 104-86. Into the forecourt, Price. Price left wing, goes to the line. Bounced to Hot Rod. Went up for the shot and was fouled. The foul is on Buck Johnson. Johnson with his third, make it 4th foul now. Rockets are over the limit. Hot Rod will shoot the free throws. John has 14 points in the ball game and is 2 for 2 at the line. Cavaliers 104-86 with 3:26 to play. Cavs 39-12 after this one. The Rockets 31-19, ending a 4-game win streak. Free throw up and in for Hot Rod Williams. 15 points in the ball game. Here comes Chris Dudley. Dudley in for the first time. Now you have to wait a little longer. 105-86 Cavs. Hot Rod ready again. Up, off the rim, rebound Olajuwon. Scoops it outside to Frank Johnson. Frank Johnson takes it through the center circle into the forecourt with 3:20 to play. Right side to Alan Level, who was on for the first time. He's been around for 10 years. Ball into Olajuwon. His shot didn't go. Randolph Keys with a rebound. Give to Valentine. Down the floor to Hot Rod. Hot Rod on the right wing. Drives in. Knocks Walter Berry out of the way for the charge. Hot Rod with his second foul. Chris Dudley comes in. John Williams sits down. Dudley averaging 3.5 points a game. He'll play forward to Clear Rollins center. Ball into Buck Johnson, back to Frank Johnson. Craig Elo will return. 3 minutes to play. The Cavs by 19. Frank Johnson cross court to Alan Level on the left wing. Now into Chuck Nevitt. Back out to Level, back into Nevitt. Nevitt at 7'5". Goes in, he hooks, he missed. The rebound slapped off the glass, out of bounds. They'll give it to Houston. Craig Elo returning. And with this, a timeout is called with 2:47 to play in the ball game. 105-86 Cleveland, and we'll take this timeout of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Radio Bears with a 105-86 lead and 2:47 to go in the ball game. The scoreboard trying to initiate the wave here. I think they're a little tardy because in order to get a good wave now, you'd have to include all those people out in the parking lot. Don't anybody behind the wheel of your car stand up. Just stay there and drive. Cavaliers are up by 19. They've hit only 4 of 10 in the fourth quarter from the field, but they're 9 of 10 from the line. Houston is 6 of 10 from the field, 4 of 6 from the stripe. Cavaliers still with a 42-39 rebounding edge for the ball game. Houston has turned the ball over 20 times today, and it's cost them 27 points. Cavaliers are going with Valentine and Elo at the guards, Dudley and Keys at the forwards, and 3 Rollins at center. Houston now counters with Frank Johnson and Alan Level at the guards, Walter Berry and Buck Johnson at the forwards, and Chuck Nevitt at center. Alan Level into Nevitt, back out to Berry on the left wing. Berry against Randolph. Keys cross-court pass intercepted by Elo. Elo in the backcourt. Phil Hubbard will get to the table and into the game with the next opportunity. On the right wing, Valentine. 2.5 to go. Bounce down the sideline to Keys and back out to Valentine. Valentine from 22 feet. Hits! Darnell Valentine with 6, and the Cavs 107-86. Johnson over to the left wing. Johnson between the circles. 2:15 to play. Johnson dribbling with the left hand to the left side. Johnson, the lob inside to Nevitt. Nevitt goes in under the basket, put it up off the glass. Ball slapped around, grabbed by Berry, and he is hammered as he's trying to put the shot back up. The foul is on Chris Dudley. Now Dudley picks up his first foul, and the Cavaliers over the limit. Phil Hubbard comes into the ball game. Hubbard averaging 2 per ball game, and Tree Rollins sits down with 2 points. At the free throw line, Walter Berry left hands the first one up off the back of the rim, no good. Berry in 2 games with New Jersey this year against Cleveland at 14 and 8. He has not scored in this one. He missed both free throws. Dudley the rebound ahead to Valentine, draws the crowd. Lob over to Hubbard, down the left side to Keys. Keys left sideline, again double teamed, back outside to Valentine. Valentine on the left wing, 1:50 to go. Give to Hubbard, fires inside to Keys. He spins, tried to shoot, ball knocked away. Grabbed by Buck Johnson, fires it down the floor to Frank Johnson, who put it up and in. Frank Johnson with 4, and the Cavs are up 107-88 with 1:38 to play in the ball game. Into the forecourt, Elo on the right wing. Elo against Level, over to Hubbard. Hubbard on the left wing. Hubbard to the top of the key. Pass under to Elo. Up and in. Elo gets his first basket of the day. 109-88 Cavs. Right side Level. Level runs it to the middle. Throws it back out to Buck Johnson. Left side Frank Johnson. His jump shot is no good, and Elo the rebound. Out to Valentine, a 2-on-2. He gives to Keys. Keys drives. Shot blocked by Buck Johnson and out of bounds. Cavs ball. 109 to play. The Cavs lead 109-88. They put 18 on the shot clock. Randolph Keys will inbound on the far side. And a good number of the 18,808 here are on their way home. Drive safely. Come on back and see us Wednesday night when the Cavaliers play the Portland Trailblazers. Bounce into Dudley. Backs it on Nevitt. Put up a shot. Nevitt blocked. Slapped around. Grabbed by Berry. Barry comes down into the forecourt, flip to Buck Johnson, and he fumbled it out of bounds. 109-88 Cavs, 1 minute to play. Cavaliers cruising home on national TV with an impressive victory. Well, Keys didn't see the ball till it came over his head, but he was able to snag it. Gives to Elo, and the foul is on Buck Johnson trying to get it back from Elo. 5 fouls on Buck Johnson, all of which is academic, except it does put Elo on the free throw line. And Craig, with a basket for 2, will be there for the first free throws of the game. He's up to 56% at the free throw line for the year. 53 seconds to play, 109-88. And Craig swishes the first of 2, has 3 points in the ball game, and the Cavaliers lead 110-88. Elo ready again. Up it goes. On the front of the rim, no. Rebound, Nevin. Nevin in the backcourt against Dudley, out to Frank Johnson. Johnson brings it into the forecourt of the right wing against Valentine. Stops. Pass in to Walter Berry. Berry against Hubbard. Berry carries it on his hip, lays it up with the left hand and in. Walter Berry with his first 2, 110-90. Cleveland, 36 seconds. Valentine into the forecourt. Valentine between the circles against Frank Johnson. Right side to Hubbard. Hubbard at the top of the key against Walter Berry. Off on the right side for Elo. Ball knocked away and out of bounds. It'll give it to Houston. 23 seconds left in the game. Cavaliers leading by 20. The ball into Frank Johnson. Johnson into the forecourt of the right wing. Into Walter Berry. Knocked away by Valentine and then off Walter Berry's hand and out of bounds. Well, the Cavaliers get it back. Greg Elo will inbound it. Elo looks long, but instead gives it inside to Valentine. Valentine to the timeline, 14 seconds. Valentine to the line, 15-footer. Back of the rim, no. Elo swats it to Hubbard. Hubbard lost the ball. Hubbard got it back. Hubbard flips it to Dudley. Underneath the Keys. Went up to the slam block. Elo, no. Rebound outside to Johnson. The game's over. Final score. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 110. The Houston Rockets, 90. And we'll be back to wrap it up after we take this 2-minute timeout on the Cleveland Cavaliers Radio Basketball Network.
1988.